Good evening. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, July 27, 2021 at 6 p.m. Public participation in the meeting is encouraged and available in the council chambers, or you can watch the meeting live on Channel 4 or at lhcaz.gov. We'll move on to item 2 is our invocation, but unfortunately the pastor was unable to make it this evening. So we'll move on to item 3 of our agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's going to be led by the Veterans Resource Team, Ms. Cindy Ritter and Ms. Joan McDermott. Good evening.
It's already on. Is it on already?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, good evening. If you would like to share a little bit about the Veterans Resource Team.
Thank you, Mayor Sheehy. It's an honor for us to be here this evening. I'm Joan McDermott, a member of the local veteran community here. About 8 years ago, I wondered how our veteran community could better serve and more effectively serve veterans in our city. The leadership at the VFW, the Marine Corps League and Military Moms, reached out to the broader veteran community, and we began to meet at the VFW. As an informal group, we called the Veterans Resource Team. At about the same time, the then mayor, Mark Nexon, had teamed up with City Magistrate Mitch Kalali, and they had decided that they were going to start a Veterans Treatment Court. I invited Judge Kay to join our meetings. He attended once. Then he sent his court supervisor. And the next time we had a meeting, he decided that we would meet at the courthouse. And it was a very wise move on his part, because we know that you cannot be a success as a Veterans Treatment Court unless you have the full involvement of the community. And so from that time on, we've been meeting up at the courthouse. I became the Veteran Treatment Court Mentor Coordinator, and Cindy Ritter became the secretary for the team, and she's also the president of Military Moms. Cindy?
Hi. Thank you very much for inviting us. We started with 3 veteran organizations about 8 years ago. This has turned into over 40 veterans organizations and non-veteran organizations and a handful of private citizens. In that time, we have given a hand up to 226 local veterans with rent, food, hotel rooms, car repairs, gas, electricity, and other things needed to survive. We have referred 66 veterans to other services for them to get the help they needed. So far this year, we have helped 30 veterans. In 2015, we developed a process that keeps veterans from going place to place and getting money for more than one organization at the same time for the same thing. The veteran has now to complete an intake form, provide a copy of their DD-214 and copies of the bills that they are requesting to be paid. That all comes to me from all over the city, or they may even call me directly. I then go through it. I vet the veteran. I talk to them. I find out why they're in the situation they're in, how they're planning on getting out of the situation if we in fact help them. And then I send an email to all of the organizations and the private citizens that actually give me money, and tell them the veteran's story. And I explain to them why they're in the situation, what their income is, how they plan to get out of it, and how much money I want. So then what happens is I go pay the bills. I go wherever it is I have to go, and I pay for whatever it is they're requesting. Since 2015, we have paid out $106,368.58. And none of this would be possible without the generous donations that all of us receive from the citizens of this community. And so for that, I really want to thank all of them for doing that for us.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing within our community. We appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 4 of our agenda is the roll call. Ms. Williams, if you'd please call the roll.
Council members Nancy Campbell,
Here.
Jim Dolan,
Councilmember Doyle is unavailable, but Councilmember Dolan is here to serve all your city council needs.
Councilmember David Lane,
Here.
Michelle Lynn,
Here.
Cameron Moses,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jenny Koch,
Here.
Mayor Cal Sheehy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the call to the public. This is the opportunity where citizens have to address the city council on any matter within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. There is a light indicator box next to Ms. Williams. Green means you have 3 minutes. Yellow means you have 1 minute remaining. And red means that the 3 minutes is up. If you are here to talk about anything that's on this specific agenda, we encourage you to wait till that time so we can have a two-way conversation. Otherwise, we can just listen intently to your comments during call to the public. You don't have to sign up for call to the public, but we did have a citizen do that. So we'll start with Don Bergen, and then we'll open it up to others after. Good evening, Mr. Bergen.
Good evening. Subject I want to discuss is Swanson Avenue between Acoma and Smoke Tree. About 3 years ago, a little over 3 years, ADOT did a bunch of work on that street, supposedly to help the college. Well, I go up and down that street at least 2 times every day. And I have realized I don't think there's any college students using that sidewalk. They all have their own cars. And I have seen maybe a total of about between a dozen and 2 dozen people on that sidewalk for the whole entire 3 years that I've been looking at it. And I've seen maybe 2 or 3 bicycles in 3 years. And that brings my subject up to the parking, the bicycle lane that's on the street to the north end of it. And this, I think, is a mistake. It is, the width of that lane is the width of the handlebars of a car. And then you got cars going 35 miles an hour or more past it. It's just a dangerous situation, and it affects traffic. Anytime you would have a bike on there, but I've never seen a bike. And I really would think that you should consider eliminating that bike path. It would improve the traffic situation and perhaps avoid a very serious accident. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the citizens that have requested to speak via written comment, but would anyone else like to address the city council? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record, and then share your comments.
My name is Don Wisdom. I think you can spell that. I have 3 things. I just brought up a point. They have a sign up. They're going to have a mini hospital just north of the View. Haven't heard any more about that. We had a meeting at the men's club this morning, and I was informed that the architectural money you voted for, and I recall there was a certain amount of money on the vote on the screen up here that you voted on, somewhere around $500,000. Now, as informed, it's from $300,000 to $500,000. Then I was informed there was 7 artist concept of the courthouse. Now we're down to 3. My suggestion is that maybe we send that to the public via the newspaper and let the public vote on which plan they like the best instead of just the 5. I had another one. Oh, I asked you about a chip business. You said potato chips. I said no, chips for electronics. And you said we don't have any land. Well, if you go from the shopping center down to Home Depot, there's a big piece of land. I understand it belongs to the state, but with your professional ability to convince them, let us buy it. And that would be a great place. We have a great climate for that kind of an industry. And President Trump wanted to bring, I'm still green, more industry back to the United States. And that would be a great step. I would say, well, we don't have the educated people here. If you build that kind of a building, the people will come. And we could do like some businesses, have the living quarters in with the plant. I think I covered it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. All right, and would anyone else like to address the city council? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Doreen Santoyo. Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Today, my concerns are with the loss of scenic lake views in our city. I have a realtor friend who's told me that the properties on the south side are now going towards $1 million, which is absolutely, going through the roof. Anyway, big builders are here. I understand that. And we are quickly losing a lot of the scenic lands, the lake views in particular. And I do have a photo that you might have there of one of the buildings being erected, and it's completely blocking the lake views. So it's a concern. I'm very concerned. The building of these mega metal storage units, there's a ton of them out towards Walmart as well. So I think that we need to consider and maybe even halt the construction of the commercial and the industrial complexes on these scenic lands that are taking up, blocking the lake views. I think there is land available east of Highway 95. We should preserve these properties for future housing and parks for our children, our grandchildren. And Havasu, of course, is a tourist destination, and we need to keep it the beauty here, not looking like warehouses. I think we all need to be concerned, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have the city clerk will email the photos to the council that were presented. Would anyone else like to address the city council during a call to the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the call to the public. Move on to item 6, which is our consent agenda. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mayor,
Yeah, Vice Mayor Koch?
motion?
Yes.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Koch and a second from Councilmember Lane. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7 is correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. 7.1 is announced vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, there are several vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. Board of Adjustment, 1 regular member, 3 alternate members, and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 regular member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall, and they are also available on the city's website at www.lhcaz.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.2 is the city manager's report. Mr. Knudsen.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to start by recognizing one of our residents and a volunteer for the city. At a recent neighborhood watch meeting, city volunteer Donna Brock was recognized for her many volunteer service contributions to the city. In addition to serving as her captain for her neighborhood watch program, she also actively serves in many capacities as a volunteer for Lake Havasu City, and excuse me, including as she's a member of the Board of Adjustments and a victim advocate, and she is the Havasu Silent Witness Committee member and a lobby greeter at our City Hall. She does a lot. Thank you, Donna, for your service and dedication to the community. In the photo from left to right, you'll see Kathy Stewart, who's with our police department, Jerry Bracamonte, who's with the city manager and mayor's office, and that's Donna Brock and her husband, Gary Brock. And of course, to the right is Councilmember David Lane. Thank you, Donna. Lake Havasu City, we've launched a new GIS informational portal that features many city maps. That includes a lot of detail and information. So we call it a GIS informational portal. Essentially, we have a lot of maps on our website. So go and take a look at them. There's a lot of layers within those maps. So as you click in, you can bring in more information, or you can follow the links that are on there. You can look at what the zoning districts are throughout the community, location, of course, of parks, our waste collection days, our fire hydrant locations, which water pressure zone do you live in, tax parcel information, including owner information, location for water and sewer lines, our FEMA flood hazard maps, and a whole lot more information. So if you go to our website, which is lhcaz.gov, and you can click on the city maps icon, and you can view all the great stuff that's on our website. Thank you to Kevin Neff, who is our GIS coordinator, who is responsible for maintaining the system. Does a great job for us. Starting Monday, August 2nd. So next week, Republic Services will be altering the collection days for some of our residents to ensure timely service and a more even distribution of trash and recycling. Check your mail, as Republic Services has sent out some postcards to each household explaining the changes to their service, if any. To help with the rollout by Republic Services, the city has posted their map on our website. So if you'd like, you can go to lhcaz.gov/trash. And you can you can pick up this map on our website and drill down to see your exact location. So that's either look at the postcard or get on our website. And a reminder from Republic Services is that it's important to get your carts out early the night before to miss any of the drivers coming in the early mornings. And that might change based on the routes that they have there. So don't get used to the existing routines because they're about to change. And for more information regarding the change to your collection day or anything regarding your trash collection systems and services, contact Republic Services. And of course, their phone number is 855-9441. And lastly, the COVID update. You can see that we have 79 new cases since my last report. The information contained here is as of yesterday, July 26th. Currently, we have 33 active cases of COVID in Lake Havasu City. As a continued reminder, please be smart, be vigilant, and please support one another. Mayor and Council, that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 8, which is our public hearings. 8.1 is a Series 10 beer and wine store liquor license for All American Fuel Stop at 1041 Acoma Boulevard South. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, Faid Dada has applied for a Series 10 beer and wine store liquor license for All American Fuel Stop, 1041 Acoma Boulevard South. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no objections were received. The location is properly zoned for a Series 10 liquor license, and the applicant is in attendance tonight to answer any questions from the council.
Great, thank you. Do any members of the council have any questions for the applicant or Ms. Williams? All right, seeing none, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter?
Hello, David Diaz. I go to that store quite a bit, and I just don't know what a Series 10 is. Is that?
It allows for beer and wine.
So they
beer
do
and
not
wine.
sell that at that time. At this time?
They don't. They're asking for a license to sell
Okay.
beer and wine.
I thought
at
they
that location.
okay. Oh yeah, 'cause it's a great store. So I go there. I go there all the time and get propane. But anyway, I didn't know what a Series 10 was.
Yeah,
So,
there's several series of licenses issued by the state. So the beer and wine license is Series 10. The applicant is in the audience and mentioned for those at home that they are doing it right now with a temporary license, and this just makes that permanent. So thank you. Any other question, or excuse me, anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. To the applicant, do you want to make any comments or? Okay. All right, perfect. I just want to give you an opportunity. Yeah. So, all right, I'll bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor, motion.
Oh yeah, Councilmember Lane.
I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control approve a Series number 10 beer and wine store liquor license for All American Fuel Stop 1041 Acoma Boulevard South.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Lane and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, and congratulations. Item 8.2 is presentation and discussion of the 2021 National Community Survey results. Mr. Kozlowski.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I have a presentation regarding the key findings from the National Community Survey. The National Community Survey is a nationwide survey which allowed us to compare ourselves nationwide with other communities as it pertains to these 10 areas such as utilities, economic development, public safety, parks and rec, and many other areas as you can see from this slide. Starting in March, 8,000 surveys went out at random to residents across the city. 4,000 residents received a mailer, a postcard in the mail asking them to go online and complete the survey. The other 4,000 received a hard copy survey in the mail asking them to complete the survey and mail back. Of those 8,000 surveys, approximately 22% of households responded, which compared nationwide was a fairly good response rate. The demographics of our respondents are very similar to our census data. Majority of respondents were 55 and over, owning a home in Lake Havasu City. And one key factor as well, which I thought was of some importance, majority of respondents were full-time residents. Some key findings before we get into some of the details. 90% of respondents believe Lake Havasu City is a great place to live. A majority of respondents believe Lake Havasu City is a safe place. Majority of respondents value the natural environment, such as open spaces and parks. And then a majority of residents also believe that Lake Havasu City has a great sense of community. The quality of life by far scored the highest with our respondents. They firmly believe that Lake Havasu City is a great place to retire, a great place to visit, and plan to spend the next 5 years of their lives here. Some key services that scored well with our respondents, fire, parks, and police scored very high across the board. Some areas that we'll have to consider as far as improvements, land use and zoning, stormwater management and drinking water scored fairly low among respondents. City governance scored on par with communities nationwide. Many of our respondents believe that customer service across the city is very well received. They believe that our services that we provide are also good quality as far as our services go. Some key areas that scored on the lower end and that we'll need to continue to work on was community health, the economy, community design, and utilities. Utilities stood out, was scored a lot lower based off of our internet provider in the community. That really impacted that section of the survey. Planning characteristics as far as the commercial growth and the layout of the community scored low amongst respondents. 29% felt that Lake Havasu City was a well-planned commercial growth for the future. And a majority of respondents are very concerned with affordable housing throughout the community. A lot of things that staff and council firmly knows and is working to resolve as well. Economic health, another key area that scored low as far as Lake Havasu City is a place to work. 24% felt that Lake Havasu City has equitable shopping opportunities, and 20% believe that there is quality employment opportunities across the city. Community health, as you can see from the respondents' age demographics, they're very concerned about the future health opportunities across the city. The affordability scored low, as well as the availability of quality mental health, which was somewhat interesting. As far as the source of information, a lot of these respondents are not reaching out to the city. They're not attending public meetings, and they're not watching them on TV or online. So it is interesting to see how they responded to some of these sections of the survey. However, a number of respondents have access to the internet at home. They have access to the internet on their phone. So definitely moving forward, it's going to be important that we utilize those avenues in reaching them and informing them and letting them know what's going on at the city. As far as special topics, we had the opportunity with this survey to provide 3 special topic questions that asked respondents if they would be interested in raising taxes. Should code enforcement be more proactive or reactive across the city? And if there's a need for a second bridge to access the island. And a majority of respondents were not in favor of raising taxes. However, a key aspect of that question asked them if they would need more information in order to make that decision, and a majority of them wanted more information before making a clear-cut decision on that question. As far as code enforcement, a majority of respondents, 61%, want us to be more proactive across the community as far as some of those issues. And the need for a second bridge also scored high. They definitely want to see a second access point onto the island moving forward. And in conclusion, there was definitely a lot of great things that we can take from this survey. Lake Havasu City is definitely a desirable place to live as far as respondents. Our customer service at the city is very well received and scored very well in comparison to other communities nationwide. And Lake Havasu City has great parks and open spaces, which was confirmed by most respondents. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, thank you for coordinating the survey. It provides a nice baseline for us going forward. And is not surprising. You know, you have a question such as, do you want to raise taxes? Of course, the answer is no. But in true Lake Havasu City style, 68% said, hey, but tell me more. What is it going to be for our community? And that's really what makes Lake Havasu City so special, is that pioneering spirit that this is our community and we're going to collectively make it a better place. But I just need to know more information. So I think that is good information. Also, when you look at the data, that as it drills down a little bit, the number of people that actually watch our meetings in either live format or recorded is much higher than other communities. So we do have an engaged public that wants to engage with us on their terms, which that's what we're here to do and serve. So we have those avenues for our citizens to be able to engage with us. But it was significantly higher, if I recall that data point, the number of people that engage with the work that we do every day on behalf of our citizens. So any other questions, comments, thoughts from members of the council? No? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Kozlowski, for, again, quarterbacking this for us. And it's
Thank
great
you very
benchmark
much.
data. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 8.3, which is adopt resolution number 21-3522, affirming support to be awarded a grant with the Office of Senator Kelly for fiscal year 22 congressionally directed spending for Lake Havasu City Police Station and jail refurbishment. Mr. Frosley, I have you as the lead on that, unless...
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. If you recall, a few meetings ago, we got authorization from the council to submit an application to Senator Kelly's office to for a grant application to do some repairs at the police station. It's a $4 million grant application. Following our submittal, it seemed to be getting some traction. They called us back, asked for some additional information. One of the requests was some letters of support. So that's what this is here, reaffirming our support for the grant application.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, so there is a good progress being made through Senator Kelly's office on this grant application, and his office is just asking, again, for a lot of support from council. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Koch?
motion?
Yes, please.
I move to adopt resolution number 21-3522, affirming support to be awarded a grant with the Office of Senator Kelly for fiscal year 22, congressionally directed spending for Lake Havasu City Police Station and jail refurbishment project.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Koch and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 8.4 is adopt ordinance number 21-1259, amending the zoning classification and district boundary for 2455, 2457, and 2459 Anita Avenue, tract 2242, block 1, lots 13, 14, and 15, from limited commercial district C1 to single family residential district R1. Mr. Morris.
Honorable Mayor, council members, thank you. The subject property here is located north side of town, near the intersection of Avalon Avenue and Anita Avenue. It measures roughly about 200 feet by 150 feet. It's a total of 3 lots. They're vacant at this point and undeveloped. The lots themselves, if this rezone is approved, will need to be reconfigured to meet the minimum requirements for the R1 zoning district prior to any building permits issued for the property. As far as the current zoning, it is zone C1. The zoning in the area to the north is zoned R1 and developed with single family residential. The areas here in yellow are zoned R2. They are developed as a mix of single family and 2 family units. The balance of the block of the C1 properties are zoned C1, and then across Avalon Avenue, there are R1 properties. Now, I'll go a little bit of some background here as far as the general plan designation for these properties. When the city was originally platted, there were a number of areas scattered around the city that were designated as commercial nodes, if you will, in residential neighborhoods. Those are shown here with these red circles. The idea was for these areas to provide neighborhood commercial services to the residential areas surrounding them. This has been 50 years, and really since it's been developed the past 50 years, there's not really been much commercial development going on in those areas. And so in a number of those areas, the general plan went from a commercial node in 2016. The general plan changed those to residential areas with no commercial nodes. So examples of that are up here on Bison and Kiowa. That was a commercial node that had commercial zoning in it, and it was subsequently rezoned all to residential, single family R1 residential, and it's almost all developed out now. Another example that's transitioning is on Palo Verde near Bentley Boulevard. There's some other lots there that were rezoned to R1 and have been developed with residential. There's still a little bit of C1 property on that node. Another node down here on Arizona Boulevard was zoned C1. The ends of that block have been rezoned to R2 and developed with single family residences. And then another example, Chemehueva and Jamaica. There was a commercial node there that is transitioning to residential. There is a multiple family project going on there. And I believe you'll see at your next meeting a request for rezone another area, another lot in that area. Now there are two areas, commercial nodes that weren't changed over with the 2016 general plan amendment. Those are Chemehueva and McCulloch South here, and then McCulloch and Jamaica Boulevard intersection. Those remain. The subject property here is shown as the general plan designation as residential. So the request meets the general plan suggested that be utilized in long-term as residential. The Planning Commission heard this item at their July 7th meeting and recommended approval by a vote of 3-2. That concludes staff's presentation. Open any questions that council may have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Morris. Are there any questions, comments, or thoughts from members of the council? All right, seeing none, this is a public
Mr.
hearing.
Mayor?
Anyone would like to address the city council on this matter?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan.
I know this is coming up in future agenda items as well, the whole, like I said, converting commercial to residential. And having grown up in Havasu, I mean, I know we've had these areas and they haven't been utilized, I think, as well as we've liked. I know friends that have put businesses in those areas, and over the years they haven't done as well because Havasu is used to coming into town and going shopping. And I mean, other than some gas stations and Dollar Generals, they haven't seemed to pick up very well. So like I said, I definitely think it's a good idea to look at it, and if we can get better use out of it, I'm for it.
Thank you. All right, yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. And
my name is John Parrott. I live at 2490 Lima Drive, and I'm employed by Coldwell Banker Commercial Real Estate. I have to state that I have no interest in this transaction at all. I congratulate you for taking on obviously the request came to you, but I think rezoning is something that the council needs to debate maybe at one of your retreats and come up with some policies on that. I have to say that in 25 years of selling commercial real estate and the 20 years before that where I was a buyer and a seller myself, I have never had anybody come to me and say, can you find me a good commercial nodal space? It just hasn't happened. It's a 1960s zoning technique that McCulloch incorporated, but it's just not today. And I think Mr. Dolan is an experienced business owner, and he will tell you that traffic is what a business like his needs. And while Jamaica and McCulloch is obviously a success, and I personally think that Jamaica and Chemehueva is an area that should be left commercial. But Anita Drive is never going to attract commercial activity. It's just one of those ones where there's not enough traffic that a business owner could make a profit there. An investor would never buy the lots and build a building in an attempt to lease them out, because the rental rate on a place like Anita would be so low that, and with the cost of construction being so high, an investor could never make money there. And I think when I say never, I'd be willing to bet that that would be at least 20, 25 years. So I personally think this is the right thing to do, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions from any members of the council for Mr. Parrott?
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember
Question?
Campbell?
Mr. Parrott, what would you recommend for the gentleman that actually owns the one commercial node in the middle of it and is actually utilizing it? And how do we work around that? Do we just build homes all around his building or encourage him to sell it? Or what do we do when we have one person in the middle of this whole commercial node? I'd love your expertise.
I think that certainly is a problem. And all I can say is that the public had a chance to vote in the general plan, and that's really the only time the public gets to have an input into zoning decisions, and they voted successfully that this was a residential area. And when I said I've never had anybody ask me to find them a commercial nodal property, but I've had lots of people come to me and say, can you help me sell this thing that I never should have bought?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And just to dovetail on Mr. Parrott's comments, with the general plan, that's the only opportunity citizens have. It's the only opportunity, but it's very significant and very long. So it's about an 18-month process with stakeholder engagement, several public hearings that then culminate in a vote. And our last vote happened in 2016. The general plan certainly supports this. And when I drove out there this weekend to look at that property, other than the commercial building that's right in the middle of this block, you wouldn't know otherwise. It's very residential in this area. So Councilmember Campbell, your question is a great question. What do you do with the way it's right in the middle of this commercial node? And do you build property or residential around it? I mean, that's why as the city is starting to infill and more of these are going to come to us over the years, we have to look at each one of them on the merits of their individual use, which we've seemed to have had a lot of them just this year have come forward when we take a look at it. But again, it supports the general plan, or the general plan supports this, and that's our guiding document for all zoning required activities. So, yeah, Councilmember Moses.
Has the owner of that commercial property mentioned anything, objected to anything?
Yes, he was at the planning and zoning meeting, and he has reached out to me several times about he's very much against this happening to him.
Mm-hmm. All right, Councilmember Lane.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's the exact map I was looking at. Thank you, Luke. Good job. So in this particular instance, it looks like we can actually have the best of both worlds here, because there's 10 pieces of property there. And over the last 50 years that the city's been here, only one piece has been developed. That's where Luke's showing you right there. This only affects the three most eastern pieces that are already up against the other housing areas that are zoned R2. And it still leaves all those other pieces for commercial properties should somebody want to develop them sometime over the next few years. So as we've discussed in the past, we need workforce housing. We need to be able to have lots where we're building residential areas. And here we have 3 lots that we can build residential on and still maintain some commercial properties. So it seems to me that in this particular lot and area, it's the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, this is still a public hearing. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for additional discussion or a possible motion. You know, Councilmember Lane, you're right. So it's half of this, it would make sense to go residential. Would the other half make sense to go residential or commercial? Once that issue's in front of us, then I think we have that discussion, and that's really what it comes out to be. But like I said, just driving that area, you won't know any difference with the single family homes that would go in this area.
I agree with Councilman Lane. I think we could still maintain that integrity of that neighborhood right there with still the same intent. I think the real hard decisions are going to come down the road when the market dictates that they want to move the other lots around him. That's when we'll have to start making some really hard decisions. But at this time, I think I could get behind that. So with your permission, I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah, please.
I move to approve the ordinance number 21-1259, amending the zoning classification and district boundary for 2455, 2457, 2459 Anita Avenue, tract 2242, block 1, lots 13, 14, and 15, from the limited commercial district C1 to single-family residential R1 with the following condition. The lots shall be combined or reconfigured to meet the R1 standards prior to the application for a building permit.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Moses and a second from Councilmember Lane. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you. Item 8.5 is adopt ordinance number 21-1260, amending the zoning classification and district boundary for 2571 Via Palma, tract 2271, block 1, lot 7, and a portion of golf course parcel 1D, APN 105-14-036 from limited multifamily district R3 and golf course district GC to residential estate district RE. Mr. Morris.
Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you. The subject property is in the area of the golf course. It's on Acoma Boulevard South on Via Palma, just off of Acoma Boulevard South. The subject property, the applicant owns lot number 7 at 2571 Via Palma, and they're in the process of purchasing a portion of the golf course adjacent to that property. The combined properties together equal about 3/4 of an acre. A little history on this item also, on background on the golf course zoning itself. In 2016, the city adopted our current development code, which includes zoning map. Prior to that adoption, the areas here in green, which are golf course zoning currently, were previously zoned RE, like the rest of the kind of dark olive kind of green here. So previous to the 2016 zoning code, all the golf course was zoned RE, just as the other lots, majority of the lots around the golf course are zoned. A concern was addressed, was presented at that time when we were updating our zoning and development code, that the golf course wasn't doing as well at that point, and there was concerns that someone may come in and buy up the golf course and then get rid of it and just develop it as residential estates, single-family homes. So the golf course zoning was established to help ensure that someone couldn't just come in, buy it, and just develop it as residential lots. It would require rezonings. So something that would allow a residential property as the main use. The new owners, someone bought the golf course and they obviously are not selling it off, not selling the golf course and developing it as residential lots, but they are taking advantage of selling off portions of the property to adjacent property owners. You've seen a number of these requests come through where someone's purchased the property adjacent to them on the golf course, and then they've rezoned that golf course property to match their underlying RE property in most cases. This is a similar request. The current zoning for this area, here's Acoma and here's Via Palma near Palma. The subject property here is currently zoned R3, and then the other subject property is the golf course portion, and it's zoned golf course. So you'll see that nearby properties, of course, are RE across the golf course, and then around the area of along Acoma is zoned R3. The vast majority of the lots surrounding the golf course and most all the other areas in town those lots are zoned RE. As the subject request, they're asking to be rezoned to RE. Here's the proposed parcel plat map for the property. Here's one of the subject property. This is the property that's zoned R3. They're asking it and the golf course portion to be both rezoned to RE. They plan to build a single-family home on these two lots as one property when it's combined. They don't intend to develop the site as multiple family, so they've requested instead of the R3 and the GC zoning, they are requesting RE to match the vast majority of the properties that do surround the golf course. This little parcel here currently zoned golf course does not meet the minimum standards for an RE zone, so these two lots would have to be combined or reconfigured to meet the underlying RE zoning if you approve this request. The Planning Commission heard this item at their July 7th meeting and voted recommend approval by a vote of 5 to 1. That concludes staff's presentation. Open any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Are there any initial questions or comments from council?
Question. When we were at the planning and zoning, there was two things that came up. One was, can you make that parcel, this is all together. Either we're voting today to vote this whole section to be RE, correct?
Correct. These two are asking to be voted, to be rezoned to RE, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, so with this slide here on the screen, the area past the dotted area, that's about 55 feet between the adjoining property and this proposed lot. So there's 55 feet in that area. If this is successful tonight, we'll have an additional item at the next council meeting that would then put an easement there. So that would help protect any view corridors for neighbors that may feel that they're impacted from this area. And although it's R3, most of the properties are single-family homes, again, in this neighborhood. All right, any other questions, comments before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council in this matter?
Green light. Well, obviously, I'm a golfer. Now, that little bitty section says 55 feet wide. What is that going to be zoned as?
That'll be golf course. That'll stay GC, and we'll have the cart path and the easement for the water.
So we will have our tee box in that piece of land.
It's my understanding the tee box would go, Mr. Morris, if you could move the cursor up just a little bit to show where that proposed tee box, yes.
Right. So the 55 feet is just for golf cart driving?
Correct. And to protect view corridors as well. With that easement, it would protect any view corridors that people believe exist in that area.
Do we have to have a quiet zone when we're teeing off? Because some guys get pretty nasty. They have a bad shot.
Yeah, the golf course is a private entity. So, yeah.
That's not a quiet zone then?
No, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, the golf course can make that determination as they so please, but that's nothing in our zoning issue today has been brought up about a quiet zone on the private property of the golf course.
All right. 4.
So I live in that area, and I didn't go to that previous meetings, but I think the new element that I'm seeing, or I just heard, was you said there's going to be a view corridor that's going to address the two neighbors that were really concerned that their view was going to be taken away.
Well, there's 55 feet between the property line and the existing sites. And so, I mean, there'll be an easement in there. That's where the cart path will be. The water lines will go. And 55 feet.
And the only other concern that I have, thank you, Mr. Wisdom, for the backup. The only other concern I have is as the golf course sells like 20 or 30 feet additional, some of these fairways are getting really narrow. And so it's quite interesting. If you walk the golf course, I mean, it's 20 feet is 20 feet, and you got to be a really good golfer not to start hitting houses, and a lot of houses are getting hit. But I know there was a lot of concern about the views. Two neighbors were really vocal about losing their lake views and losing their equity in their homes, and I think we should take that into consideration. So,
sure.
There is another issue that tee box is elevated.
Mm-hmm.
The property on the left is much lower than the property, the little strip right there, the little 55-foot strip. So it's kind of be interesting how they're going to plan to level that out.
Yeah, Mr. Morris, I don't know if you could speak to that.
Well, I don't know exactly the golf course's plans for sure, but my understanding from a previous meeting was that they intend to shorten that hole by moving this tee box. I'll go to the previous slide. My understanding is this is currently the 18th hole on the east course, and it's currently a par 5. My understanding is, per the GCA, this really should be a par 4, and I believe the golf course is planning on relocating the tee boxes to shorten it a little more, and possibly relocating the tee boxes in this area away from that area between the proposed new boundary of the zoning and the neighbor on the corner there. That's my understanding. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I recall they expressed at the previous meeting.
Great, thank you. All right, would anyone else like to address the city council during the call to the public? Or the public hearing, excuse me? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I mean, yeah, no, Ms. Williams does have one comment that she's going to read into the record that we received prior to the meeting.
One comment was received on July 19th, 2021. City council members, our names are Christy and Don Burleson. We reside at and our lot borders the 18th fairway on the east course of Lake Havasu City Golf Club. We are writing this letter in support of the zoning change regarding the property tract 2271, block 1, lot 7, and a portion of golf course parcel I-D APN 105-14-036 at 2571 Via Palma from R3 and golf course to residential estate district. This property is owned by and have been our neighbors since 2006 up until they sold their home. We do not have a problem with the zoning change that is needed for them to build a new home at 2571 Via Palma. They are always respectful of their neighbors and kept their property neat and well manicured. We feel their new home will be an asset to the neighborhood. Respectfully submitted, Christy and John Burleson.
Thank you. All right, we'll close the written public hearing as well and bring it back to council for questions, further discussion.
Yeah, Mayor, I had a question for Luke. It is joining these two lots, or creating another lot and then extending the one that's existing there onto the golf course. Is it going to create any kind of situation like what we might have just seen at the Board of Adjustments on the Palmer? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Where because we're using because as soon as the gentleman mentioned the elevation change between the lot and the golf course and how they're elevated, I mean, are we going to create a situation like that where somebody's able to build a 70-foot high structure?
Thank you for that.
I'm exaggerating with 70, so I shouldn't have done that. But you understand where I'm going with this?
Yes, and thank you for the question, Commissioner Moses. Council Member Moses, excuse me. Typically, when lots are combined like this, one of the conditions of the approval of the lot combination is before any construction can be done on the property, they need to submit a grading plan to show what they're going to do with the property. And then there are different ways to determine basically what the baseline, what the zero is to determine a building's height, because in this RE, they can go up to 30 feet in height. And there's different means to determine where that zero is for determining that the 30-foot in height. So they could do what's called a pad study, where they would move the dirt around on the property, a conceptual plan that shows a 7,000 square foot building pad. And that's probably what would happen in this case. And that zero, that building pad elevation would become the zero for measuring the height of the building. So I don't believe this case is as extreme as that Board of Adjustment case that you mentioned, where there was a huge difference in the elevations. And those were lots that fronted on two different streets, so it was a through lot. It's a little different situation than this, but similar question, and I can appreciate the question. But this would be one that would be looked at on a case-by-case basis through that height adjustment process that most of the builders in town are familiar with now. Because unfortunately, most of the lots in town are lots that are uphill, downhill. There's a lot of topography, and so the local builders and surveyors are getting very good at doing this height adjustment and this process. So appreciate the question. Hopefully I answered it all right.
No, thank you, Luke.
Yeah, and a lot of that elevation change is artificial to have the T-box risen. So when you go out to the site, it's significant, but it's not that at all. So,
Mayor, I have a question for Luke. The part of this that confuses me is that we're zoning a parcel of the golf course RE prior to the owners even purchasing this land. What then happens, let's just say if something changes, then it reverts back to golf course, or does that slice stay RE even though it's below RE's standards of everything? That's the part that I'm confused most about.
Well, thank you for the question. The golf course portion of this, through this parcel plat map, once that's approved and recorded, then that parcel will be owned by the owner of lot number 7. So it'll be one piece of property and be developed as such. Right now, they're waiting to move forward to get that recorded. My understanding is once this rezone is approved, they're going to move forward with that, get that recorded. So I don't anticipate these lots not coming together. Everything points to they will be developed as one piece of property. I would be very surprised if they didn't move forward and they were not developed. If, in fact, for some reason they weren't combined, then they would have to be, per the proposed motion, be reconfigured at least to allow the minimum, to meet the minimum lot size for the RE. So that there's a mechanism in the motion that will help ensure that it won't be developed as a substandard RE lot as far as the size.
So it's contingent, basically.
Yes, that's okay. Put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, so what we have in front of us is a zoning matter that met in front of Planning and Zoning, and the Planning and Zoning Commission comes to us with a recommendation of that committee. We have talked about the various components of this and the impacts of this to the neighborhood, going from its current zoning designation of GC for the golf course into the RE, and one portion from R3 to RE. So that's going to increase the height ability to 30 feet for this now combined parcel, if that is the will of the council. Any other questions, comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Moses?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to adopt ordinance number 21-1260, amending the zoning classification and district boundary for 2571 Via Palma, tract 2271, block 1, lot 7, and portion of golf course parcel 1D, APN 105-14-036, from limited multiple family district R3 and golf course district GC to residential estate district RE, with the following condition: the properties shall be combined prior to the application for a building permit.
Excellent. We have a motion. Would anyone like to second the motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses and a second from Councilmember Lynn. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 5-2.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.6 is approve amendment number 1 to Sarah Park sublease agreement with Lake Havasu Sportsman Club, Inc. Mr. Keene.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you came to us from the Sportsman's Club. They're looking to expand the property that they lease from the city out at Sarah Park. The concept here is to, one of the activities that they'd like to add is a walking archery course, and that's just not practical in the space that they currently utilize. So they're looking to expand the area just to the north of the area that they currently lease, between Dub Campbell Parkway and their current leased area. The existing area is approximately 100 acres, and they would be expanded. The expansion area is approximately 90 acres. The space is currently not being utilized, and the topography currently does not lend itself to many other uses. This item was heard by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board last night and was unanimously approved for recommendation to council. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. Any questions or comments from any members of the council? All right. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor,
Yeah, Vice Mayor Koch?
motion?
Yes, please.
I move to approve amendment number 1 to the Sarah Park sublease agreement with the Lake Havasu Sportsman Club, Inc., and authorize the city manager to execute the amendment on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Koch and a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Item 8.7 is award the engineering master professional services agreement for wastewater system improvements to Jacobs Engineering Group. Mr. Sloan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you know, the city owns and operates hundreds of millions of dollars of utility infrastructure. These next 3 agenda items are basically 5-year term consultant contracts for design and construction management services for both water and wastewater. So the first one up is the wastewater system improvements. And Public Works went through a request for qualifications process to solicit consultants for engineering master professional services agreement for wastewater system improvements. 4 firms responded to the RFQ, and after the selection committee reviewed the proposals and interviewed each of the firms, Jacobs Engineering was the highest ranked firm. So some of the projects that would be done under this master services agreement would be things like Park Avenue lift station expansion. So there's new development there that the existing lift station can't handle. The island treatment plant effluent pond. One of the ponds is currently not lined, and so it percolates into the ground to reuse the water. We would need to line the pond. Replace failing odor control at the Mulberry wastewater treatment plant. And then one of the Vados well, number 4, one of our injection wells is at the end of its life. It was installed in 2007. So these are some of the projects that this term consultant would help design and construct for us. Each one of these projects would be an individual task order to the master services agreement. So this is not awarding any individual project. This is just a term consultant contract. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor, motion.
Yes, Councilmember Lane.
I move to award the engineering master professional services agreement for wastewater system improvements to Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc.
We have a motion from Councilmember Lane and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.8 is award the engineering master professional services agreement for water system improvements to Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. Similar to the previous one, so this is for water system improvements. So we also did a separate RFQ process on this one. We had 5 firms that responded to this RFQ. In this RFQ, we did have a difference where we could select up to the 3 highest qualified firms based on potential workload and the qualifications of the firm. After we reviewed the proposals, Jacobs Engineering Group and NCS Engineers were the highest ranks of the firms that submitted proposals for water system improvements. Some of the projects that go along with on the water side is the horizontal collector well rehabilitation. This is a big project for our main water supply, and this involves cleaning the 14 laterals and doing pump maintenance. Replacing of a 1 million gallon steel tank up at S1C24. It was built in 1980. And then there's definitely been some water treatment plant improvements that have been programmed but just have not been designed or completed yet. And some of these include covering the biological filters and the cascade aerator and upgrades to the chlorine disinfection system. And then there's also multiple booster systems throughout the city that need to be upgraded with new electrical and pumps. Again, it's similar to the other one that each one of these projects would be an individual task order to the master services agreement. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor, motion.
Councilmember Lane?
I move to award the engineering master professional services agreement for water system improvements to Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc.
I'll second.
I'll second.
I beat him.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Lane and a second from Councilmember Moses. You gotta be quicker next time, Councilmember Dolan. All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes, unless Cameron already did it for me.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, item 8.9 is award the engineering master professional services agreement for water system improvements to NCS engineers. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. And this is the same as the previous. As I mentioned, we did have the opportunity to award more than one on the water side with the RFQ, and NCS was the second ranked highest proposer.
Excellent. Yeah, so these master service agreements that we're kind of making our way through quick just provide the avenue for staff to be able to do these things. These are budgeted separately and still will come before council again if city code dictates it to. All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor,
Yeah, Vice Mayor Koch,
motion?
please.
I move to award the engineering master professional services agreement for water system improvements to NCS engineers.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Koch and a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And then our final public hearing is item 8.10, award agreement for professional services design for the wastewater master plan update to Jacobs Engineering Group. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. So as the previous items talked about the continued need to design and construct upgrades to our utility infrastructure, the wastewater master plan update is a key component of those efforts to identify capacity issues, expansion requirements, operational deficiencies, and to address capital infrastructure needs. I'd like to introduce Mark Elliott with Jacobs Engineering Group, who will give a brief presentation on the wastewater master plan update.
Thank you, Honorable Council, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm Mark Elliott. I'm a principal engineer with Jacobs. I've been consulting now for, I think, 13 years for the city and been involved in previous planning, and excited to have the opportunity to talk about the upcoming wastewater master plan. Why a wastewater master plan? First and foremost, these documents are updated every 5 to 10 years. Your last plan was in 2014 and probably based on 2012 data. So the time's right for that update. We look at population growth changes. We've had water conservation. All these factors influence the outcome of the wastewater plan. Most importantly, it's a document that guides your capital and financial planning for the next 10 years and prioritizes the CIP. It'll identify resources, both people and alternative funding if needed. It also is an opportunity to get an independent evaluation on your wastewater system from a condition, operational side. It's going to focus on wastewater plant capacity and really develop a roadmap for upgrades. With 3 treatment plants, you have opportunities to really optimize how you serve wastewater within the city. Certainly, it's going to look at effluent and reuse. And then lastly, SCADA. I'm going to talk about communication upgrades, important part of this program. It's really like 4 master plans with this one. It's an update of 2014, but it's also a look at the plants, a look at your reuse, and a look at SCADA. As far as an update goes, an important part of it is your population forecast. This is going to be critical that we work with your planning folks and really zero in on the right forecast. So that's what we tie the wastewater flow and capacity needs in the future. We did this on your water plan, and we'll be doing it on the update on the wastewater. In addition, we'll look at your plants. You have North Regional, Mulberry, and Island. They're all in need of various needs. This will be important. We'll work with your operations folks to develop the right improvements, prioritize to allow for continued resilient, sustainable service for years to come. And a unique part about this plan is to look at SCADA. This is your communication. This is your hardware and software. This is an important element in operating treatment plants, pump stations, and a utility system like in Havasu. Hardware gets old, needs to be replaced. This will be an important part of your capital replacement plan the next few years. And with the unprecedented drought we have, we're going to take a look at the water reuse side. The city does a great job with its effluent. We're going to look at every opportunity to maximize reuse, potentially recharge, look at the wastewater quality, and really the end goal is to booster reuse as an important part of your water resource portfolio. And finally, a conclusion is a 10-year CIP and a plan that is really supported by your new wastewater rates. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Again, I appreciate the opportunity on behalf of Jacobs. We've enjoyed working with the city, your public works management, your engineering department, and operations. It's a very collaborative team to work with, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions of any members of the council of Mr. Sloan or Mr. Elliott? Do you have an idea on the time frame on how long this is going to look?
Yes, very good question. The contract's for 1 year, and based on the SCADA, the CIP, doing the capacity analysis, it's looking like it's going to take almost that entire year to get the complete report. We have asked for an accelerated schedule on a preliminary CIP list so that we can make it into anything that's newly identified, and we can program it in to our next budget cycle for the CIP. So
great. Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion, questions, or a motion.
Mayor?
Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, I'll motion. I move to award the agreement for professional services for the wastewater master plan update to Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. in the amount of $499,500.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Moses and a second from Councilmember Lane. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. Councilmember Dolan?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Great, thank you. All right, item 9 is our current events. Are there any council committee reports from any members of the council?
I could give a quick the Go Lake Havasu is, we're dark this month, but next month we'll be back in full swing with new board members and get some exciting ideas going forward, so.
Excellent, thank you. All right, item 10, are there any future meetings? Yes, there are future meetings. The future meetings are Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 at 6 p.m. is a regular meeting, and then also on Tuesday, August 24th, 2021 at 6 p.m. is a regular meeting. Are there any future discussion items? All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Dolan?
It doesn't have to be a special session or maybe something the staff can look into. Speaking about the roads, I do have concerns with the utility companies and their easements and tearing up our roads and not putting them back necessarily to the quality they were prior. Maybe that's something we can look to in the future to get an update on how that process works and why it's failing us.
Sure. Yeah, we'll take a look at that and see what makes the most sense, if that is a council agenda item in the future or just outreach to the citizens and the public. We can have that discussion. Staff have what they need on that.
Perfect.
If we get a second, we can advance.
I'll second it.
Okay. So then the scheduled to come before council here in the next meeting or two will be a conversation about work in our right of way. So I think if we can maybe combine those two conversations, that'd be effective.
Yeah.
That's great. If we already have something coming down the pipeline, as long as it's part of that discussion, I think we all see how Acoma worked out and how that's affecting our roads. So if we can have it in that agenda item, that'd be perfect.
Great. And then we'll talk about just how all utility providers and subcontractors, when they touch our roads, what the impact is and what our reaction should be to that. So absolutely. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, item 12 is adjourn. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thank you all for joining us. Be kind and we'll see you next time.